Yes.
And tell us what we've done.
Well, since Proposal A was implemented, all sources of funding into K-12 education have increased by 59.6%, and current operating expenditures per pupil have increased more than 55%, whereas the consumer price index, the rate of inflation, has only increased by just under 32%. So just comparing those figures shows you what dedication there is to education. Michigan, the changes in per pupil spending between 81 and 82 and then fiscal year 02 for the 20 years, Michigan, the change is per pupil was $2,488 of an increase. And that's about maybe, I think it's 18th in the entire nation, but it still is above the national average. The increase in the minimum foundation allowance, which was way down there when Proposal A was first implemented, it was only $2,762 per pupil. That has increased by $4,346, and now it's up at $7,108 per pupil.
Per pupil.
Per pupil. So that's a very big increase. Another goal of Proposal A was to reduce the gap in funding among districts. Yes. And that gap has been reduced by $2,301. There's still work to be done on that, but it has continued. It did continue up to a point, and that has to, if that will continue, the gap now has remained the same in the last several years because of certain funding for certain districts. But up to that point, it was over $2,000 of a decrease in that gap. The percent change in funding since Proposal A was implemented has been 42%, and that again is compared to the Detroit area consumer price index or inflation of only 34.2%. So we are above and beyond the inflation rate. We're doing well compared to other states. I have some few other figures to compare to other states. Current expenditures for public K-12 schools in Michigan, the total is over $16 billion, and we are 9th in the nation for that. The 7 states in the nation have higher student enrollment, but only, let me get this right, only 3 states spend more than Michigan does overall for K-12 education, so that's how dedicated we are compared to the other states. You were asking about teacher salaries. Often teachers or teacher education groups complain about teacher salaries in Michigan. They are actually the 4th highest in the nation, and this is actually according to the National Education Association, so it's according to the Teachers Education Group. Current expenditures per student, this is from the 04-05 school year. Michigan is number 13, or was number 13, this is the latest data available, at $9,784. So I think these figures show that we as a state and as the legislature and the Senate are very dedicated to education, and it is a priority, just as we've always been saying. One thing that you were asking about before we met was this declining enrollment part of the budget. Last year, or this current school year, up to September 30th, so it was last school year, what was set aside for what we call declining enrollment was over $20 million. What this means is the districts that are losing students, sometimes they lose students because families grow older and the students move away and those families don't move out of the district. But a lot of times they lose students through schools of choice, where the parents decide this isn't the district I want to stay in, I want to go to a charter school, or I want to choose a school that's nearby, a school district that's different from the one where I live. So as a result, some of these districts, who I think, and this is my opinion, may not be doing as good a job as they can at meeting the needs of students. They're losing these students for that reason, a lot of them. But the governor had the idea to say, well, if you're losing students, we'll give you money anyway for the students that you don't have. To me, that doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. There are some instances where school districts have fixed costs. And that makes sense, especially for the smaller school districts, where they need to, if they lose a student in one first grade and another student in another third grade, they don't want to have to drop a teacher just because of that. So in that instance, I think declining enrollment money makes sense. But we have these larger districts who can not only close buildings if they're not meeting the needs of students, but who could also consolidate classrooms and still not have large classrooms. To the tune of, we have districts who received $880,000, $356,000, $550,000, $200,000, There is even one district that received $8 million for losing students. It doesn't make a whole bunch of sense when these districts are big enough to either consolidate school buildings and or classrooms.
Well, Anne, you've brought up a very important point, and that is with Michigan's economy being what it is and the hard times that individuals and families have been facing, we know that we have to do some reform, some restructuring. Now's the time. This is a defining moment in Michigan's history, and I'm very dedicated to helping this state recover. So when we look at opportunities for reforms, one of them may need to be now along the lines of those schools that see declining enrollment, that they need to become more proactive and deal with it, that they can't keep expecting to get the same amount of money when there aren't as many students there. In addition, we've gone further. There have been several bills to deal with, as you mentioned, the consolidation issue, Kristin, and you've helped me with some language for one of those consolidation bills. We have a bill that was sponsored by a House member that would encourage, actually mandate, every school district to start studying how to save costs and look at cost sharings and consolidations where they can. Would you tell our listeners what speed bump, so to speak, we fell into, and we said, wait a minute, we got a problem here?
Sure. Well, you had voiced some concerns during Education Committee regarding Headley, which requires that the state fund any mandates that they put on local units. And so that was our biggest concern, was that we're going to require these districts to have do such a comprehensive study on services.
Right.
And we're not going to give them a cost for that. So what we did after some discussion, we decided that maybe we should have the ISDs do it. It would remove a step from the original bill, and the intermediate school districts have a bigger picture of what all of their local districts are doing and maybe how best for them to work together. And we thought that that would probably reduce costs for them. And then we also said that they can use the same Section 81 funds to conduct this study. And one of the other concerns you mentioned was that local districts would have to contract out this service, that they wouldn't be able to do it in-house because it's such a comprehensive study. So we thought that the ISDs also would be better equipped to do such a large study like that. So
exactly, and the impetus for this, Anne and Kristin, came from something that I know is being done in Oakland County. At the county level, they are assisting local units of government with similar kind of studies as to how to consolidate. And for example, Farmington Hills have utilized the services of Oakland County to look at maybe coming together, forming one community. I know Wixom, Wall Lake, and Wolverine Lake, as you know, are also looking at how to consolidate a number of police, fire services all together. So this is where the idea came from, and I'm glad we're moving forward. These are the kind of real reforms that will have tremendous payoff, hopefully, in the future. Also, we passed legislation to really encourage a common school calendar throughout Michigan. Because if you don't have a common school calendar, how can you look at things like privatizing maybe bus transportation and having one service, maybe 2, 3 districts, and find cost savings there. So we're very vested in looking at how to save precious taxpayer dollars, but do it efficiently, appropriately, and responsibly while maintaining quality here in the state of Michigan for all our children. I'm so glad you could participate with me in our Lansing Connection this month. I think we've given our viewers a lot of information. And as always, they can contact us, easily you and me, and Anne. We get in touch by calling us at 1-888-38 38 Nancy, or looking at the website and emailing us. Kristin gets back very quickly, and I want to really thank you for your good work.
Thanks.
And thank you for being such a partner
You're very
in
welcome,
education
Senator.
with
Thank
me.
you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.